It's the
You know what to
second
do.
time you got up for the intro.
Yeah. Well, I can do whatever I want. It's my intro.
I'm gonna kick your ass now.
Okay. Do it. I dare you. I dare you. Right now. Let's go. Tell me outside. Catch me outside. How about that?
Catch me outside.
Wow.
Sup, dude?
So there's a lot of power in myth, is what I've noticed lately. It's the latest book we've been reading.
Apparently we're just gonna make crack inside jokes
Yeah,
about all the books.
about
that we
all the
have
books
here.
we read, you know?
Let's just flow with this episode.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Wow. When you read a book, you could take it differently than I do.
Mhm.
Did you know that?
I did.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's whatever resonates with you, right?
Kind of ties into the episode topic we have today.
Yeah, I think it's perspective versus perception. Is that correct?
Perspec versus perception.
Yeah, perception, perspec. You know, just to put it into perspec for y'all, I'm not going to be speaking like that today.
No,
Screw
we're
that.
definitely not. But this is actually
It's a very interesting topic.
it's a rabbit hole.
Yeah,
I feel like we
it's
can
a
go
ra-
very deep on this.
Yeah, very much so. But first of all, what is perspective and what is perception? Do you know?
I'll let you start out with some definitions.
Okay.
You can make your own definitions, but
Well,
see.
perspective is the way we see things, the way we view things emotionally, and like our point of view, right?
Mhm.
Perception is deeper than that. Perception is how you perceive it based off of your inner philosophy.
Mm.
So think about that for a second.
So are you saying that perspective is more of like, let's say perspective has more to do with the eyes,
Mhm.
whereas perception has more to do with the mind?
Yes. A little bit. You're on the right track.
It makes a lot more sense because
Yeah.
I put it into that.
Yeah. It's a little bit more complicated than that, but
Mhm.
perception is basically the internal evaluation that you have for whatever it is, whatever decision you're making.
Mm.
So perception is driven internally. Think of internal, external. So your point of view, what we're used to, you know, put yourself in someone's shoes.
Mm-hmm.
We always hear that. That's perspective.
Yeah.
Perception, on the other hand, that's where slightly gets confusing, because it's, I mean, for religious people, it's driven by their moral compass. It's very
Mhm.
internal. It's your structure from when you were a kid. You know, what values you had,
Yes.
ethics, morals, and all that.
Well, okay, here's the thing. Because I feel like a lot of people are confused. They think that the two labels are the same thing.
Mhm.
So in what ways are they similar?
In what ways are they similar? Well,
Perspective and perception.
perspective and perception, when put, I guess you could put them together, and they become your lens.
So they're both subjective.
Yeah.
There's no one objective perspective or perception.
No, everyone's going to perceive and take in things differently.
Okay.
So the lens, we could focus on that for a second. The lens is how you view things. That's your perspective in life. It can be motivated by perception,
Mm-hmm.
but in most times, because emotions are so strong and our brain is strong,
Mm-hmm.
it can shift your perspective a little bit. So what's a common scenario?
Well, actually, I remember the one Kai brought up in, I think it was his last
Mhm.
interview we had with him, where he brought up the example of two friends that you already knew, who, one man, one woman, who got together.
Mhm.
They were in a relationship.
Mhm.
It ended up being a bad breakup. And then when you talk to each of them separately,
Yep.
you get two wildly different
Answers, and yeah, like everything went down differently
Mm-hmm.
between, like, so the narrative's changing. So
Yeah.
everyone perceives it differently. Everyone takes it in differently. You know, if it's
Mhm.
something that's going to hurt you, yeah, most likely someone's going to be more emotional about it than the other.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not. But another common like example would be a family of 4 went to Disney World. Okay. And while it's the happiest place on earth and they're having a lot of fun and everything seems to be towards fun, you know, looking at their story, their Instagrams, talking about it, everything's fun. But what you don't know is what happens in between.
Yeah.
Okay.
You have no idea what went down.
So
during
one
the
of the
event.
one of the children was vomiting all night. One of them had diarrhea all day. It was hot. so they were sweating. It wasn't fun. The lines were long, you know. So
Diarrhea and vomit at
yeah.
Disneyland, not a good move.
So ask me as the viewer. I'm gonna perceive it as, dang, they had a good time, right?
Mhm.
It was the happiest place on earth. It was a great day. That's my perspective. Their perspective was, oh my God, this day is so long. We got to make the best of it. Oh my God, we have 2 kids. They're running around everywhere. I spent so much money on food today. Like all that.
And for the kids, it's basically hell
Yeah.
because they're shitting their pants and vomiting.
Yeah. And even me thinking about that, like, it doesn't sound too bad because I didn't live it,
Mhm.
obviously. But you see how my perspective is going to be completely different than
Yeah.
theirs.
And really, I think this is probably the one thing that's responsible for a lot of, or all conflict in the world, really.
Mhm.
Whether it's between 2 countries, whether it's between 2 people, vegans versus carnivores. I guess it's more of like an ideological battle because everybody literally has their own world, their own bubble,
Yeah, you're right.
and it might seem like I mean, of course, there are commonalities that people share, but people literally live in different realities,
Yeah, they do.
even though they have the same
Mhm.
experience in the same room, for example.
Yeah. Like talk to people. When you talk to people, you'll notice something's off from
Mhm.
person to person. It's not always going to be the same. And sometimes you feel like your perception is going to be correct, you know, along maybe that comes with ego, or maybe that just comes with experience. I don't know.
Definitely
Like
ego.
it
I
depends
mean,
on what you've lived, you
they're
know?
they're all mixed in with each other.
Yeah. Um,
But to have this discussion, like to discuss perspective versus perception without ideology
mhm.
or the subject of dogma, it's like the all of them are interlinked. You can't just push one or the other aside.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think that's the main problem in the world today. Is just ideological
Yeah.
belief systems.
Yeah. Feeling for others, you know? And by feeling for others, I think that has a lot to do with perspective.
Hmm.
You're not understanding their perspective. You might think you're open minded and that you're accepting of other ideas, you know, on, you know, by the fence. But when you really put yourself there, you're not going to be as open minded as you think you are for most, you know, for most parts of the world,
Hmm.
at least. And I see it all the time. It's because, you know, oh, the West is so open minded. The West. Okay, the West is not that big of a region compared to like the rest of the world, for example.
Yeah, it's relatively small.
Yeah. So it feels like it's an attack on the West for being so damn open minded, which is crazy. It's
Yeah,
crazy to me. Um,
those
there's
goddamn Democrats.
yeah, those Democrats. You know, we never wanted Biden. Look what he's done. You know, like
Yeah.
um, but you can't like I don't see how it's my job to understand the other side and try to take in their ideas as much as possible and compare. You know, compare my ideas, how I grew up, my beliefs
Hmm.
and structure, and compare it to that structure. I, for the most part, like do not disagree. It's just okay. I kind of see it now. Like I see why they're like that. You know,
Hmm.
but vice versa never happens. I wouldn't say never. Sorry, but it just barely happens. You
Yeah.
know, rarely happens where their understanding of our ideas, for example,
Hmm.
they look at us as very dumb, stupid. You know, focused on the wrong thing. We're driven by the wrong things.
Well, it goes back to ideology.
Yeah.
I mean, you have religion, you have religiously motivated values. And that's the thing. When you bring up those 2 words, it's like there's so many other labels that come into the equation.
Mhm.
In my mind, I'm thinking, okay, perception. I think you can also label perception as consciousness.
You can.
And then in my mind, it's when you think about, you go through your day, when you wake up in the morning, you have a different perception or a different level of consciousness than you do at night. So it's almost like a spectrum, a sliding scale that
Yeah.
depending on what happens,
Yeah.
depending on what mood you're in.
Yeah.
And that's the trippy thing to think about because it's always shifting. It's
Yeah.
always evolving.
Interesting. Well, perception. In order to perceive the world, how do you do it? How do you perceive the world? Like, what do you see is fit as
Wait,
a
what do you
whole?
mean?
Like, how do you, in your like, when you wake up in the morning, how do you view the world in your lens? How do you see it? Do you see it as a nice place? Do you see it as a
Yeah,
place
yeah.
of opportunity?
Hmm.
Do you see it as a place that likes to motivate you?
Mhm.
Do you seek to
Like, what's your intention for the
what's your
day? What's your
intention? Yeah,
intention for your
what's
routine?
your end goal? Because I think that it plays a huge part in
Mhm.
what your end goal is, like in life.
Mhm.
A lot of people just want to like die and guarantee heaven, for example. That's like their ultimate goal, right?
Yeah.
They really
Yeah.
don't care about what happens in between, except for comfort and just like being happy.
Mhm.
Um, some people, it's raising the best kids in the world and leaving like legendary children here on Earth
Mhm.
before I go.
More of a legacy type of
More of a
mindset.
legacy type
Yeah.
of mindset, you know. Some people want to build a royal family, like here's all the
Yeah.
money, here's all the businesses. It's just it really depends. But how do you perceive it? I'm having trouble deciding on mine. Mine is very artistic and weird, and it's not necessarily driven
How do I
every
perceive the
single
world when
day.
I wake up?
Yeah, like I know you probably have a motivator in the morning, for example.
Well, I mean, when I wake up, when everybody wakes up, it's more of like
Yeah.
you have a blank slate, assuming that you're not, a neurotic type who's always thinking. Like when you wake up immediately, you're not thinking of anything necessarily. It's more of an observation
Hmm.
type of exercise or experience. But then as, you start to get less groggy or whatever, um, you begin to think about how you want to approach the world. And for me, it's very simple. I mean, I think I just want to get better in general. I want to focus on the things that matter to me,
Hmm.
that are meaningful to me. So, yeah, I would really say that'd be my answer.
Yeah, you're right, and I wanted to focus on observation.
Hmm.
So we observe every single day,
Yeah.
which we like. That's why if we go back to like one of our other episodes where we talk about consciousness a lot, being conscious of every single decision, especially when you're speaking to yourself, that's the most important thing. And it's
It's one of the
how,
most difficult
yeah,
things, too.
and it's how you wake up and how you speak to yourself
Hmm.
every morning, and that's really what starts to shape your perception.
Hmm.
And as you shape your perception, your perspective follows.
So it's a feedback loop.
Yeah,
Like,
they're 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 they're
but what?
intertwined.
Okay, but where's the origin point? I think.
Consciousness.
Well, yeah, but this is the tricky thing. So let's say perspective is the origin point.
Okay.
Once you have the perspective, then that flows down into your perception. So I really think, I mean, I guess feelings, maybe emotion is the origin point.
Mm-hmm.
And then see, this is the tricky thing. It's like
It's
I don't even
tricky.
think
Yeah.
you can point to an origin.
Yeah, because right now you're speaking to yourself. You're like, "Okay, I know it. I
Does it
feel
come
it."
from logic?
You don't.
Does it come from emotion, or does it come from just general consciousness? I don't know.
It's everything. So it's
Yeah.
it's the logic speaking to the emotion, and emotion providing the energy for the perception motivation, which
Hmm.
then translates into perspective.
What the fuck?
Yeah, it's a wild one.
I know with confirmation bias, for example, it starts with a feeling.
Mhm.
And then you rationalize your position and you create thoughts to back up that feeling.
Yeah.
So that you can maintain a steady
Mhm.
framework of reality
Yeah.
or worldview.
So what if I told you this? What if you woke up like with sniffles and you're a little bit sick,
Hmm.
and you tell yourself, "I'm not sick," and you immediately get up and just start your day, and everything works out just fine, actually.
Happens
Do
plenty
you
of
see how
times.
you just took control?
Yeah. And then that ties into the whole placebo effect thing.
Yeah. So I think this would tie into the whole like self-discipline school thought, which is you need to just be disciplined in general in order for
Mhm.
you to actually take the control of the wheel
Yeah.
and start controlling your emotions, controlling everything else, because then it would help your body go through the things it needs to in order to perceive things correctly,
Hmm.
and obviously on top of knowledge too. Like we should all be reading a lot.
Hmm. I wouldn't say control. I mean, control in a certain sense, I would say in the context of emotion, I would say just notice and flow with it. Don't try to control it because you can't control your emotions. You can change your emotion, but if you feel hatred,
Yeah, let me rephrase that. Control yourself. Don't control the
control
emotion.
the actions from
Control the
which the
actions
emotion
from what
stems from. Yeah.
because the emotions can be very strong. Yeah,
Yes.
that's what I meant.
Mm.
Good point. Good point.
There's so many like nuanced things that you can discuss about this. It's
Yeah.
like I said, rabbit hole. So
Mhm. So, how do we perceive the Middle East? I already know
how
how
do
we
we
perceive.
perceive that? Well, I perceive the Middle East as home.
Yeah, I perceive it as home too. But at the same time, okay,
Hmm.
let's just say we never went home.
Hmm.
We were born here. You perceive it as this giant big mess.
Yeah,
Okay, a lot of
yeah.
dirty stuff.
Which
You
technically it
know.
is. You're not
Yeah,
wrong.
and the thing is, there's gonna be nice, good, bad, dirty, evil, great,
Hmm.
uh, philosophical. There's gonna be everything that you want. There's luxury. There's poor.
Yeah,
Uh, it's everywhere. Right.
sophisticated, rugged. Yeah.
Now, the only reason why we know that is because we've been there.
Hmm. But if you
So,
think, but if you think about, let's say, 40-year-old white male in who's lived all of his life in Alabama, how does he perceive the Middle East?
very differently. We are people of the sand, you know?
There's a high likelihood that there's a bit of xenophobia in there. I'm
Yeah.
making generalizations, of course.
Yeah.
Not everybody thinks that way, but um,
Yeah, but that's how stereotypes start. It's just
Mhm.
like you really don't know full information. You haven't fully checked in on it through the lens, which are your
Yeah.
eyes.
Yeah.
So therefore you have not experienced it. And all you have for reference is whatever someone tells you or shows you.
Mm-hmm.
And a visual reference is usually very, very trustable. Like people trust it too quick.
Yeah.
And that's what the news has done a lot.
Mhm.
Their perception, they tell us what to perceive.
Oh, don't even get me started
Or
on that. The
you know.
way the media, I basically hijacks your perception and perspective is
Yeah.
insane.
What do you think brainwashing is?
It's
It's
brainwashing, exactly.
Yeah, you're in this mode where you're not defaulted at a perception point anymore, and you're able to receive
Mm-hmm.
seeds. Basically,
Mm-hmm.
you're in a very vulnerable state, I would say, when you don't know something.
And I think that's the main issue with perception and perspective. It's because you're so confined to your metaphorical four walls, you're in
Mhm.
your little cubicle, you can't necessarily see beyond it. And so your view of reality is skewed.
Mhm.
It's much different than it actually is, which the media example is perfect. I remember seeing some infographic where these people were in the tunnel and like, I'm not going to explain it well, but basically you're perceiving reality in a way that makes sense to you, but that doesn't necessarily translate into how it actually is.
Yeah.
Which is when you think
Mhm.
about it, it's absolutely
Mhm.
insane.
Do you know the show Survivor,
Mhm.
where like basically you dropped off on an island, you have to survive?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they do that with groups of people, and they're all secluded, different
Mhm.
different paths. But it's very interesting when they all make it out and you get to hear their story,
Mm.
because everyone went through something different. You know, usually what I see is like the ecstatic male. He's usually like, yeah, I'm definitely competitive. I love this stuff. He sees it as a game.
Yeah.
He doesn't see it as like I'm in Argentina right now in the middle of these trees and I'm about to get mauled by a
About to get wrecked.
yeah, yeah. He doesn't see it like that. He saw it as purely a game, and he's winning, and he won. He's proud of it.
Mhm.
Another guy was like, oh wow, this really, I did not know how bad I was at climbing or whatever. So like now he's in a very self development. Like he saw it in a developing mode.
Yeah.
He didn't really see it as a game anymore. He didn't really care about the win.
Mhm.
You know, it's interesting.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Everyone has a different perspective. Recently, actually, I went out with a group of people and we went to San Diego. And the whole day, I would say that specific day, I was excited the day before, but as I woke up, I just wasn't feeling the best.
Mhm.
But, I'm a man of my word. I'm going to still go. So as I went, I felt like my perspective for the day was changing. I wasn't really feeling my outfit, wasn't really feeling it. Like I shouldn't have gone out, but whatever, it is
Yeah.
what it is.
Just weren't feeling it.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, what do you feel like doing? Like if you were home, what do you feel like doing? Just mundane activities. I want to observe today. I don't want to really talk.
Mhm.
I want to stay quiet. And that's exactly what I did. I actually had a blast.
You didn't talk as much?
I didn't talk as much. I listened to people, smiled, laughed. Didn't really join in on jokes. If I did say something, it was like very minimal. It was just like, yeah, I'm hungry or whatever.
Mm.
The rest of the day was just observing and just watching people laugh. And that actually changed my mood.
Mm.
You see, because I was so focused on that. I
Yeah.
was so focused on, I'm acknowledging that I'm having a really shit day today and I'm going to fix that. Instead, I did what I did best and I pulled out my camera and just started going around and taking photos and photos and photos. And I got lost in the sauce,
And I
I
assume as the
forgot.
day went on,
Yeah.
you had way more fun.
Yeah.
Like
They were
became
like,
better.
okay, it's time to go. And I'm like, wow, I had a good day.
Yeah.
Surprisingly,
Yeah.
because I listened to myself. I wanted to perceive it this way today. I wanted to perceive it quietly,
Mm-hmm.
We do have, it's like you said, it's finding the flow in it. It's not controlling it.
Well, it reminds me of a quote. I think it was a Hindu philosopher, but he said, observation, I think I have this right. Observation without judgment is the highest form of intelligence.
Wow.
Which brings me to, because I have a lot of experience with meditation. When I
Mhm.
was, in my early or late teens,
Mhm.
and early 20s, I practiced every day, like 25, 30 minutes of meditation in the morning. And
Mhm.
it totally makes sense because there's an experience of reality where you're just looking at everything,
Mhm.
but you're not labeling it.
Yeah.
Like you see a bird, you hear the sounds, but you're not labeling it as bird, and you're not labeling the sound as a chirp.
No, you're labeling it as
You're just
relaxed.
soaking it in.
Yeah.
There's no
It's-
label
It's
whatsoever.
atmospheric at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people don't understand what that feels like because they don't practice.
Yeah.
They don't,
Yeah. I have a good practice for everybody, and it's you can like as a photographer, because I started off with video, and I think video is the same. It just includes motion, so motion is very hard to get emotion out of.
Mm-hmm.
But photography is just one still specific moment,
Yeah.
and it really, really challenges you to find the beauty in things.
Oh, absolutely.
Very average things, Recently, I actually took a picture of a Pepsi cup.
I remember that
You
one.
saw that one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Pepsi.
Very simple, but people loved it.
It's because what? The mood
It's just,
that you
it
set with
tells
it?
a story somehow.
Mhm.
It's the mood, it's the coloring, it's how it's displayed, what's the background, like what environment is it in? And out of everything in the boat that I was in by the window, the thing that stood out the most was a Pepsi cup.
Hmm.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I was like, wow, that's beautiful. It doesn't have to be something, there's no one can tell you what's beautiful and what's not. Everyone's going to have a different perspective on it.
Yeah,
Right.
although I do think there are some
Scientifically,
objective examples of beauty.
like scientifically measured beauty.
Yeah, like if you see a beautiful woman,
Yeah.
99% of people are going to agree that's a beautiful woman.
What about this? For example, Brad Pitt.
Mhm.
Okay. Good looking man, right? Beautiful,
Yeah.
beautiful, beautiful,
Absolutely.
beautiful. How about if I told you that, out of a group of 20 people, 3 people said he's all right. He's not beautiful, just whatever.
What?
See what I mean?
I guess they're just not willing to admit the truth that he's beautiful.
We don't know that.
But here's the thing.
This has been, I swear, this whole celebrity question has been happening forever. No one has ever been 100% beautiful.
In my mind, I feel like they have a subconscious bias.
Mhm.
Maybe they're not as beautiful as him. Maybe they feel offended by that, or they feel insecure by admitting that another person's beautiful. So then they just project that onto their opinion about him.
Yeah, possibly. But you see how it's all hypotheticals? We don't know.
Yeah, of course.
We really, truly don't know. But the way I see it is I'm just going to take it as a stat and just be like,
Mhm.
it's never 100%. It could be a very high percentage.
Mhm.
Never 100%. Because I don't believe anything in this world is perfect.
I'm glad you brought up film and photography because I think those are the two mediums in which you get a really good idea of both perspective and perception.
Mhm.
Because if you watch a good movie, they make sure, I think they do more of they emphasize changing perspective so that obviously because you're watching the movie, you're changing your perception through watching it.
Mhm. Yeah. It's crazy, man.
And people like you have a better grasp of changing perspective for
Because
not only for yourself but for others.
it's practice, and I know everyone can find it because I was never always like that. Like I was never just, yeah, I got everything figured out since 5 years old. No, we all grew up in phases, And I actually didn't start until I was 16. So like, I mean,
Yeah.
for a hobby to master, like that's kind of late in my eyes, you know, because
It's,
if I were to start piano and I wanted to be good, I should have started at like 5, 6.
yeah. I mean, I started playing soccer at 4, so
Exactly.
the
See what I
earlier
mean?
the better.
Yeah, the earlier the better. It sticks with you better. Your fundamentals are better and all that. And you're on your way to mastery in no time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but right now, I'm just grateful for what I do, just because it really pulls you away from the reality of it, and you get to choose what you want to perceive
Yeah.
by finding and chasing beauty. That's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, I found like beauty in like a plain wall before, just based off texture, you know,
Oh, I get
and
you.
a
Yeah.
specific light or whatever. Like, you get me?
Well, like I said, that's back to the quote. That's one of the highest forms of intelligence, because you learn to appreciate things that others don't.
Yeah. And I like to double think about things, you know, and think deeper and focus on a thought. You know, if I'm gonna thank someone, like if I said, "Oh, thank you so much for this drink," I I don't want to. I'd be like, "Thank you so much. I really appreciate it." Like I'm gonna make sure you know. You know, like
Extra
I'm
layer
gonna
of
double. It's the extra layer of thanks.
where most people are just like,
Yeah.
thank you.
Oh my god, thank you. No, they see. Like I get it. There's a difference. There's a difference, and people notice.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just like they notice their shoes or your hair.
Yeah. So you're just layering perspectives on top of each other,
Exactly.
because you could say, thank you, I really appreciate it. By the way, I really like your shirt.
Yeah.
So you're just stacking it in your favor.
Yeah. Get used to taking a step back and looking at yourself from a third point of view,
Mm-hmm.
and asking yourself, is there any other perspectives that I can be choosing?
Oh, there's so many.
And then what do you know?
So
The person
many.
you're in front of, you can put yourself in their shoes, for example. How do they
Yeah.
perceive you for a second?
Mm-hmm.
It really just shapes everything, because it's like writing a script. You have to think about every individual character's history. Okay, what have
Yeah.
they been through? Are they stupid? What's their IQ?
Are they
You know, like
stupid?
I swear.
Are they
like,
dumbasses?
yeah, you have to know that
Mhm.
before even developing a story, because you have to know character development. Like, what is their rich background? Is
Yeah.
it even rich? We don't know.
That's not to
And
mention
that's-
that
that's
each
life.
emotion comes with its.
Yeah. Life is a script, man.
Yeah.
It's a script, and we have some control.
You
That's
know
I'm
what? Let
saying.
me search up the. I want to search up the technical definition of both of these words.
Sure. Sure. I do have a Google Doc on it too, somewhere.
So we have perception. All right. No, we'll start with perspective.
Okay.
So perspective, a technique of. Okay, that's not the right one.
It's not the right one?
Well, of course, the tricky thing is there's so many of them.
Yeah. No, I got you.
Okay, here we go. Perspective is linear or point projection. Never mind. If you can
What?
find a better definition, because I don't. Okay,
You serious?
perspective is a particular way of considering something.
Yeah.
Okay, particular way of considering something. Whereas perception. Bear with me for a second.
Sure. I mean, I got them right here if you want me to.
Yeah, sure.
So perspective is your point of view. It's the lens you see the world through, and determines how you view yourself, others, and everything else around you. So that comes from influence.
Mm-hmm.
And
Okay, so
yeah,
what's
so that's a
perception?
motivator. Perception is what you interpret. It's your understanding of a given situation, person, or object. It is the meaning you assign to any given stimulus. Because perception is so personal, there will always be some level of subjectivity, and there are many filters through which we experience reality, among them intuition, inner belief system, role models, beliefs, judgments, biases, experiences, and preferences.
Okay, so these definitions, perspective is the raw data
Mhm.
from your actual experience,
Exactly.
whereas perception is the meaning you attach to that raw data.
Mhm.
Okay, that's
So that's where
simplified.
that's like the emotion stored.
Yeah.
Emotional storage is perception.
Mm.
Okay. So it comes from role models. It comes from influences around you.
Any childhood trauma you've had.
Yeah. PTSD, things that and which brings me to another question. What determines trauma? You know, what determines a normal life? We don't know what a normal life is. The only thing we could relate it to is like a healthy family function.
Well, here's the crazy thing. What determines? I'll go back to the trauma one.
Yeah.
So there's PTSD, post traumatic stress disorder, but another one that a lot of people don't know about is post traumatic growth.
Mhm.
So the two, you know, two different people can have the same traumatic experience, but one can develop PTSD from it, the other can grow from it.
Yeah.
And that's a really trippy thing to think about because I guess that basically explains that you are in control at the end of the day,
Mhm.
regardless of what happened to you.
Yeah.
So
You
it's more
are.
of a matter of like how can I
Yeah.
bridge that gap and go more
Mhm.
towards the growth route.
Yeah. And yeah, we do understand that the brain is powerful. So it can drive your body to do things that
Mhm.
you don't want it to. Like for example, stress.
Yeah.
Stress is one of the hardest things to manage. And if you don't manage it, you're just gonna ruin your hair, your skin, your life, your eyes.
It ruins
Yeah, it
everything.
ruins
Yeah.
everything. It ruins your stomach lining. For the
Mhm.
dude, it ruins your acid levels. Like
Mhm.
think about that for a second. That's a huge thing. So we can't just forget that.
Yeah.
We understand it's hard. We're not trying to make it seem like it's easy or anything. I'm just speaking to the audience right now.
I mean, once you're
But
red pilled, once you know that you're in control and you actually
yeah,
prove it to yourself, then it's
it's very
technically
easy.
easy.
Yeah. You start slow. You never go to the gym and just start hitting plates right away.
Mhm.
You'll injure yourself.
Well, some people do. Some people fuck
I
themselves
mean,
up for
yeah.
life.
I mean, unless that's your level,
Yeah.
like naturally. Um, but take it slow. Like, why don't you do a week of stretching and
Mhm.
hanging pull-ups or whatever? You
Yeah.
know, get your body conditioned and then go.
Mm.
It's the same thing with the mind, man. It's you take it slow.
What else do you have on the note?
On the note, I do have
Yeah.
a graph actually that I can show you. Okay, so it's a triangle. It looks like a food chain basically, and at the very bottom,
Mm.
it's what we think, and right above that we have what we say,
Mhm.
and right above that we have what we do. It gets smaller and smaller, and the final thing at the very top of the pyramid is how we are perceived. Okay,
Okay.
and on the left side of the angle of the pyramid, it's influences going up.
Mhm.
Okay. And same with the other side as well. Its influences rise. And as the influences rise, it controls or changes what we think, what we say, what we do, and how we are perceived by others.
So feedback.
Feedback.
Yeah.
Yeah. See how it like kind of loops? If
I
you
don't-
lose the influence,
yeah. Go ahead.
it's just you're gonna it's gonna become weaker and weaker.
Mhm.
This is why we should strive to be leaders and not followers.
Yeah.
I mean, it's great to follow, but make sure you're a leader first as well.
Lead yourself first, and
Lead
then you
yourself
can
first, yeah.
put yourself in a nice position to lead others.
Yeah, and that's the thing, people that can't make decisions these days, I worry for them
Mhm.
because if you can't make a stupid, silly decision at 25, well, I don't want to let you know what's happening at like 33.
You should be able to
Like,
make a decision
yeah,
at 25.
yeah, 100%. You can be stuck for days too. Like I'm gonna sleep on it. I understand if it's like, okay, you're signing up for a $2.8 million home mortgage, whatever.
Mhm.
Okay, that's something worth sleeping on.
Mhm.
But if it's like, I don't know what to do for dinner tomorrow. I don't know if I should go to Macaroni Grill
that's
or
that's
Red
just
Robin.
stupid.
Or,
Like to put that much time and energy into
it's like
such a
is
basic
going
ass
on?
decision.
Okay, first of all, this is the way I would think. If I had someone ask me that question and they're actually genuinely frustrated and internally thinking
Oh
about
man,
this,
I can't figure this
and they're battling whether to go to Red Robin or Macaroni Grill, this is what I would say.
Neither.
No, not neither. I'd just be like, okay, let's take a step back, right?
Okay.
Now I want you to imagine what you had for breakfast and lunch and dinner today.
Yeah.
How many times did you eat? 4 times with snacks? Okay. Let me just tell you something. You're just completely wasting time right now
Mhm.
because I don't think dinner matters that much because you're still going to eat 3 times before that tomorrow.
Yeah.
So, did you decide on what you're going to eat with that?
Mhm.
And now you're torturing them because they're like, "Oh my god, I don't even know what I'm going to get for breakfast tomorrow."
Yeah.
It's just funny to me. It's so funny.
It really is. I mean,
And yeah, you need to fix that. Everyone needs to fix how they make decisions. I'm not saying it should be like on the spot, quick. But there should be a way of thinking, a patternized way of thinking that you would memorize. And that's what discipline is, essentially, is you're
Yeah.
learning yourself, okay?
Mm-hmm.
We spend so much time learning others when we never even checked up on ourselves. Because you are responsible for you, and you're responsible. And if you're going to be a leader responsible for others, you better be like mastering yourself before others.
And the type of person you mentioned, that's an example of somebody with a mindset who's very hesitant.
Yeah.
So everybody is able to gather the perspective from, they're able to gather that raw data, but those types are they're unsure of themselves in interpreting that data. So that's where they have a lot of problem with perception.
Yeah. It's strange. It's strange.
It's a skill. At the end of the day, it's a skill.
It's a skill, and we need to get better at it.
And like, there's so many examples that you can bring up. I mean, we have the obvious one right now, which is like to get vaccinated or to not get vaccinated.
Yeah. And you see the problem, like that video I sent you of the soccer, the 4 soccer players. What team was that?
That was it was Argentina versus Brazil. It was was it yesterday?
Oh my God.
It was yesterday.
Oh my God. Okay, I don't know what that was, dude, but okay, let me tell you guys the story. So, Argentina is playing in Brazil versus Brazil.
It's a huge game.
Yeah, it's a huge game. And so the game was yesterday. No, 2 days ago.
Something like that.
Something like that. It was 2 days ago. And about, I would say 3 days prior, they landed in Brazil. Okay. I guess the players all knew that when, they had to get tested.
You have to go through a whole.
You have to go through a whole process in order to be in Brazil, surprisingly. But, and yeah, don't judge me. But they essentially started the game 3 days later. So they've been in Brazil for 3 days. I guess a lot of them broke the code of.
I think
4 of them broke.
Four Argentinian players were like, there was one health requirement I guess they didn't meet.
Yeah.
And so, literally the 5th minute of the game, game has started.
The game has started.
Some dipshit comes from the sideline and is like, nope, we can't do this.
We can't do this.
We got to postpone it.
Ends the game. And everyone is like, there's about to be a fight.
By the way, keep in mind, Messi and Neymar are playing.
Yeah.
2 of the biggest players in the world.
Yeah. So it's like, what is... Okay. The fact that, like, I have to say, first of all, that was very unprofessional. Because they let the game happen. They wanted to do it at the game.
Yeah.
100% they wanted to. Because they could have went the second day at their hotels or whatever. And just, tell them there. But no, they wanted to end the game and make it seem like, they're powerful Brazil.
Somebody down below the hierarchy fucked up.
And it's just like, the comments were hilarious. Because it's just people like, really? Brazil's worried about health? Do you not remember the Olympics?
The shit water that everyone had to swim in.
Yeah, the green waters of Brazil. Like, it was insane. So that part made me laugh. And it was also just very unprofessional, so that pissed me off. But yeah, whatever. Anyway. Well, I don't even know what the hell the point of that was.
I don't even know either.
Well, yeah, the vaccine stuff.
Well, yeah, okay, let's bring up examples. You have the vaccinated people versus the unvaccinated people.
Yes.
2 wildly different perceptions of the vaccine. You have Democrats and Republicans, 2 wildly different perspectives on how to run society and how to deal with social issues.
Yes.
What are some other ones? You have Israel versus Palestine. 2 different perspectives on whose land this is. And you can go down, it's a very long list. I think it covers basically every human issue because perspective and perception are integral to our experience.
Very much.
There isn't one person who doesn't have to deal with those 2 things.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct.
And I think we're trying to save the world here at the end of the day.
We are. Like, it's the thing is, you save the world by saving the people, right?
Or by saving yourself first and then saving the people.
Yeah, but, luckily I've started quite a while ago. So, like, I'm still on my journey. I haven't mastered anything. But I am on the way to mastery, which is great.
Yeah.
It's exciting. Dude, like, you just... I want people to really take this, and take it even with a grain of salt, but at least make it stick to you.
If anything, I want people to take away the lesson that your perception of reality is likely it's not the only one.
Mhm.
It's not the only correct one. Um, Even if an experience is true to you, that doesn't mean it applies to everybody else.
Yeah.
So, like you said, a grain of
Mhm.
salt, you have to look at all of these things with nuance.
Yeah.
You have to think from a gray perspective because it's a gray world. It's not you can't think about this in black and white.
That's true. Everything blends in.
Hmm.
Yeah. I mean, if I had to say something, it would be let yourself be curious. Always ask questions. If you don't know
Big
something,
time.
and even if it comes with hate,
Big time.
there's a bunch of stereotypes in this world, and we can agree negatively a lot sometimes,
Hmm.
right? And luckily, I've been practicing self development for quite a while. It's been years now, but I now know how to take a step back and ask myself, is that really how they are? Or is that really how it's perceived? Or is that.
Yeah.
So I start asking questions. And when I ask questions, you find out answers. And I believe that the universe sends you people,
Hmm.
to clear your confusion, especially only actually if you're intentionally curious.
Yes. Questions and new
Yeah.
experiences act as they're like the gateway to new
Yeah.
ways of perceiving reality.
Yeah. Like we could say, I don't know, what's a common misconception or stereotype? Asians can't drive, for example.
I was just
So yeah,
thinking that
it's a
one.
worldwide known one, okay?
Hmm.
Now, I have a lot of Asian friends, and you know what? They all have clean driving records.
Yeah.
What happened? Oh my god,
And funny, they would probably objectively agree as well with your statement.
Yeah, because anyone that is logical, okay,
Hmm.
and knows how to ask questions and knows and is curious and wants to proceed forward in this world
Yeah.
understands that.
Or another good one is that Arab men are very prideful
Yeah,
or they're quick to anger.
yeah, and I can easily say, I know I stay away from Arab men that are very prideful. I don't think we have anything to be proud of. The
Well,
way I
no, no,
see
no.
it
There are
is that
definitely things to be proud of.
yeah, there are, yeah, but with the way the world's going, it's going down. It's not going up. So
Well,
therefore,
there we go. We don't know that.
in my
Actually,
yeah,
that's a huge misconception. A lot
and
of people think the
the
world's
way
going
I
to
think of the
shit.
world, the way I think of the world is human quality.
Hmm.
Okay, and you cannot tell me that human quality is getting better
You don't know that though.
day to day to
That's
day.
exactly where you get into the
Exactly.
how you perceive the raw data
Yeah.
because the raw data could be wrong.
Yeah, but as far as I can reach and through my own experiences, that's exactly how it is.
Hmm.
Because I
Okay.
ask questions and I am curious and I talk to people. That's what I base it off of. I don't base it
Yeah.
off of me sitting on a computer looking it up on Google.
Hmm.
That's just how it is, Like I've been talking to people my entire life. So why is it like now marks that everything's kind of going negative?
Yeah.
It's turning into bad quality.
Mm. Yeah, that's the biggest problem. That's the biggest misconception
Yeah.
I just despise. People think the world is getting worse when objectively, if you look at the raw data, if you wanna trust the numbers coming out of high level places, like people are getting out of poverty by the tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands at an exponential rate. The internet's allowing people to exchange ideas,
Mhm.
develop business relationships with one another. Now, of course, there are many arguments. You have climate change, all that, but I'm a firm believer. Even if the world is in a steady decline, I believe that it serves me better to believe that the world is on the up and up.
Mhm. Yeah.
Because what am I going to mope around and bitch that
Yeah.
oh climate change is just happening,
mean-
so I might just sit on my ass and do nothing.
Yeah. I know I said, it points towards the bad quality.
Mhm.
Doesn't mean that my perspective is towards the negative.
Of course.
No, I still
course.
believe there's good ones out there, and together, we can make this a better place.
Yeah.
We can add more love. We can add more sympathy. We can add more empathy. We can add more connection.
Hmm.
No one feels anything anymore. It's crazy. I hate going up to someone and saying, "Hi, how's your day going?" It's okay. It's like, what? Like I was expecting like a solid, Like I came in with like
Could be better.
great energy. Could be better. It's Monday.
But then again, those are the people, as I mentioned earlier,
Yeah.
who
I want to help them.
they are not emotionally mature enough to handle
Mhm.
their own perception.
Yeah.
They're not able to switch the flip.
Yeah, and sometimes I get it, like, it just slips
Switch
out
the flip.
as, like, a breath, you
Flip
know?
the switch. Yeah.
I'm over it, you know? Like, I get it.
Mhm.
I definitely do. We're all human beings.
I
It's
th
just like as much as I try to be positive and, like,
Yeah.
bring positivity towards someone, I would like that back because then it would just be like, you know, like
Mhm.
my fellow humans.
I think the one thing that everybody who's listening to this and watching this can do is be as of course, be as curious as possible and try different things, lean into new experiences, travel, try new dishes, meet new people.
Yeah.
Those are all things that they'll strengthen or they will provide a more elaborate perception of reality.
Yeah. I would start slow. So for example, if you're gonna do something new like skydiving,
Yeah.
don't ask yourself, I wonder if it's gonna be fun. I wonder if it's gonna be scary.
Who cares? Why are you
cares?
asking yourself those questions? Just go into the
Yeah.
experience and
At
then
least if you're gonna ask a question, just be like instead like because I usually go in no expectations. Like I'm just like, yeah, whatever happens, happens. And
Mhm.
then it's usually a great outcome. But if you're gonna have to ask a question, you don't I wouldn't jump to that. Like, is it gonna be a fun time? What if it's not a fun time? No,
better
no,
yet,
no.
ask
Just
the question of how can I make this the best experience possible?
either that or even better. I wonder what it's gonna be like. I'm curious.
Wonder. That's the key word.
I'm curious. It's
Yeah.
you're asking a question of no expectations, almost.
Mhm.
Right. Some of us are wired to ask questions. That's fine.
Yeah.
But
That's what
yeah,
children are good at too.
yeah.
They ask a lot of questions, but they're willing to just jump into the
hmm
experience.
Yeah. Like, why is a fire truck red?
Yeah.
It's not because of the fire.
Not because of fire, but
Yeah, makes sense though. Like,
yeah.
but you get it. We'll leave you guys with those two short conclusions there.
Yeah.
Something to think about.
Try a lot of different things. Don't be afraid.
Yeah, don't be afraid. Archery, swimming, cruising, driving,
Anal
manual
beads,
driving.
anal
If you've been
beads,
driving
whatever you're
forever,
into.
if you've been driving forever, try manual driving. It's a different experience.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, try everything new. Whether it's food, activity, whatnot.
Mhm.
But anyway, do you want to close off with that?
Send us off.
All right, guys, you know where to find us. We're on YouTube at the 2 a.m. podcast. We're also on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Pod, and all the major platforms. Check it out. Tell us how we're doing. You know, DM us. We like to hear from you guys.
Instagram, Twitter.
Yeah.
Twitter is at 2am pod. Instagram is at the 2am podcast. TikTok as well at the 2am podcast.
Mhm.
Follow us on all platforms. Leave us a 5-star review.
Yeah. And until next time, guys, without further ado, thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time. Peace.